All right, let's get rolling. It is officially 3 after 3, so we can go ahead and get this party started. First of all, thank you all so much for being here with us and spending a better part of your Friday with us to learn about real estate. And we really do appreciate your time. So we pre-collected several questions from the Slack group over the last week or so. And those are the ones that you'll see here on the screen that we're going to start working through towards the end. We're going to open it up. If anybody else has additional questions that's here present. And if we don't get to your question, don't worry. We will be doing another one of these pretty soon. And we will get to your question at that point in time. And if we don't get to write it down at the end of this, don't worry, we're going to give you an email address where you can send that question. So let's take it away, Mr. Luis. Give us a little bit of how's your Friday going?
My Friday is going amazing. I made my 1.2 hours with the slapback with Tesla this morning, and I've been working on this presentation for the rest of the day. It's amazing. We're ready to roll with you guys. Thank you for showing up. We really appreciate it. We're putting a lot of love and a lot of energy into teaching you guys. So it's it's a privilege. I really, really appreciate Sochi. I'm not sure if she's logged in already. She's been amazing. And thank you, Jeremy Newsom and Matt DeLong, for giving us the opportunity to be here. So with this,
and getting us hooked on sharing this knowledge, because in reality, it has gotten us hooked. This was new to us when the last class that you all came to, and Matt and Jeremy opened the doors for us. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So I'm going to get going over here. I got my first question, which I believe was sent in from my buddy Thomas. And he basically is wondering, how do you pick a market to invest in, specifically remotely, when it's outside of the state? And more importantly, how do you manage that investment? Because it's not just about buying it and acquiring it. You got to manage it and make it produce, right? So I'm going to basically give you guys the tips on how we do this. And the way I do this is, number one, if I'm going outside my state, I'm going to look at state level data. And then from there, I'm going to pick a county, a city, or a region of that state by drilling into the job growth in that area, into the population growth in that area. And obviously, one typically equates the other. If you are having good job growth, you're probably going to see good population growth. And so I typically want to stay in the path of progress. So I'm looking at local economic trends. And I'm doing all of this by looking at the BLS.gov. And that is essentially the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is where the United States government posts all their labor stats. And from there, you're also going to get population stats and all. I mean, you could really go down a really deep rabbit hole trying to look for data in this website, and you can spend months in here digging around and figuring out all kinds of cool stuff. You also want to drill into that particular state's unemployment stats and population stats. And pretty much every state in the union in the United States is going to have a specific website. The one that Louis has on the screen right now is BLS.gov. This is more on the federal side. And you can drill into whatever state you're looking at. Then you can look at unemployment rates. God, there's so much data in here. You can look at income, if incomes are going up, if population is going up or down, and all that good stuff. And I'm also going to drill in very closely at the particular area and county where I'm now thinking of working at, and I'm going to go into their Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to go to realtor.com, and I'm going to look at the trends that realtor.com is putting out for that particular area. And that's essentially how I pick new markets. That's the homework that I pretty much go through whenever I'm looking to find a new market. And how I manage the investments that I do outside of my market is by hiring a local professional. If I do not have already a presence of my own team of property managers and handymen established in the area, I'm going to do the next best thing and find someone who has dedicated time and energy to becoming an expert in that particular market. managing properties and managing assets, depending on whatever kind of asset it is that I am investing in. You could do that on the Word doc, buddy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so if you want to go back to our Word doc, perfect. And guys, if you could all do me a favor, throw in a 2 on the chat. If you can see our screen and hear us right, I probably should have asked that before I went on this rampage answering question number 1. Can you throw a 2 into the chat pane? There you go.
There
Thank
you
you.
are,
A
the
bunch of
listening,
2s.
yes.
Sorry. Hey, listen, we also got to keep you guys awake, you know? We're not expert presenters, so we know we're going to start snoozing some of y'all pretty soon. There's no Jeremy Newsom here. He's not in the house at the moment. And so I also have one more little thing that I like to do, and then I will limit how long I'm willing to travel to a market outside of my area. Whether I'm flying or driving, I typically don't want to travel more than 3 or 4 hours. So if I have to fly, I don't want to be on an airplane for more than 3 or 4 hours. Because think about it, I already spent an hour at the airport on the 1 hour on the way out. So there goes my whole day just to fly out to go look at this particular property. And even if I hire an expert in the area, a perfect property manager, the best handyman in the world, this is my asset. I'm eventually going to have to go visit it and have to go check on it. If something goes wrong, property manager fires me or I fire them, whatever the case may be, I have to travel to this place. I don't want to be on an airplane for 6-7 hours and then I got to hop on a car, drive the rest of the way. So I limit my travel time to 3 or 4 times. That's a very personal decision, team, because that's just how much time I'm willing to give it. And plus, you know, the east side, southeast specifically, is some of my favorite stomping grounds for investing in real estate anyway. So it makes it extremely achievable. Lou, you got anything to add to the Thomas's question here? How to pick a market and how to manage it?
How to pick the market, it's a little bit also of common sense. You know, we pretty much know where, how. It's not the same thing saying I'm going to buy in Montana that I'm going to buy in New York or I'm going to buy in South Florida. It's, remember that thing that says that a real estate is location, location, location. It's really location, location, location. It goes, so it try to always find a desirable place. Each state, including Idaho, probably has desirable places. The more desirable it is, obviously there's going to be more competition, but it's obviously going to be a better investment for you. You're going to have more people interested in buying your property, or you're going to have more people interested in living in your property if you're looking to rent it. Okay. The other thing is, we discussed this on the class originally. Real estate, it's a team. Basically, it's teamwork. When Hector is saying find a property manager, I'm going to tell you different. I'm going to tell you find 3 property managers, interviewing them all. That's your most important thing. Okay. If one of them drops dead on the face of the earth or something happened with them, then you have a property that you have to scramble. So ideally, you want to have contacts, you know, as much as you need, in the sense, if you're just going to rent, a good 2-3 property managers in the area would be great. Like a type over there, Google is your friend. Try to find property managers, use the reviews. Okay, try to find somebody that's highly reviewed and go for it. If that person doesn't, you know, work for you, another might be. Your other good way of finding property managers, asking realtors. If you're buying out of your area, most likely you're going to use an agent. So, you know, leverage the knowledge of the person in the area that you're using to get as much information, as many contacts as you need. Okay.
Perfect. Very well said, buddy. Very well said.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, team.
Everybody's
If
sleeping.
anybody
The only
has,
thing I see is that somebody's sleeping there.
somebody's sleeping over there. If anybody has anything they want to add or any follow-up questions to that question, please go ahead and throw it in the chat. If not, we're going to go ahead and move into question number 2. Also posted by my buddy, and very, very, very well thought out question. My buddy Thomas here threw at us, and that is, what would you do with a property that's been fully depreciated? So before I dive headfirst into that answer, I'm going to kind of give you guys a little bit of background as to what depreciation is, because I realize that not everybody is 100% familiar. And first and foremost, I am not a tax advisor, not a CPA, but I have been investing in real estate for a little bit, and I am slightly familiar with some of this. So I'm just giving you my personal opinion. What is depreciation? So it's essentially a tax deduction that the IRS says that you can take on investment and rental property, provided that you, number one, own it for more than 1 year. Even if it's leveraged and if you have a debt on it, that's perfectly fine, but you have to own it and you have to hold it for more than a year. And it is a business being driven, or you are deriving income out of that property. If it's an income producing property, AKA a rental property, you should be able to take a depreciation based on the wear and tear on that building, not the land behind the building or under the building, I should say. The building, its contents, its furnishings, et cetera, et cetera. So typically, the average residential property in the United States is able to be depreciated over 27 years. So just let's nerd out on math a little bit here. You buy $100,000 property. The math on that works out to about 3.6% a year of the value that you're able to deduct from your taxes. Again, provided that your CPA and your accountant says that you deserve that depreciation. And so when you go to sell that property after 5 years, after 27 years, and in the case here, where once it's fully depreciated after the 27 and a half years, well, you're going to have to pay taxes on that deduction that you took all these years. You no longer can take depreciation, so you no longer have that tax benefit. And so what do? Do you keep the property, lose one of those very, very attractive benefits of investing in real estate is that depreciation, particularly for high income earners. If you're a high income earner because you're a doctor or because whatever, you own a business and you make a lot of money, well, one great way of lowering your taxable income is by investing in real estate, using that real estate's depreciation to offset your personal taxes. Well, after a certain time, you hit the max threshold, 27 and a half years, fully depreciated on paper. If you sell it, now you have to recapture not only the profit on what you paid and what it's worth now, but also that depreciation. So I would suggest in this case, if you're going to intend on selling it, I would do a 1031 exchange. 1031 exchange is yet another beautiful stipulation that the IRS put in the tax code for us, real estate investors, which basically allows you to exchange, for all intensive purposes, from asset A, sell it, take all your profits, not pay any taxes on it if you directly reinvest it into another investment project. So that's one way of avoiding that very big tax bill. Again, you purchased the property for $100,000. It's now worth $1 million. You've owned it for 27 years. You fully depreciated that $100,000. So you are going to owe taxes on both the appreciation of the asset plus all that depreciation that you took off your taxes for all of those years. And so in order to protect your gains, essentially your profits, and not have to write a big old check to Uncle Sam, you can do what's called a 1031 exchange. You obviously need a lawyer and a nice team, and there's 1031 exchange experts out there that can help you with this transaction, but essentially it lets you move from one asset to the other without paying taxes on those gains. And that's probably the more sensible way of doing it and upgrading your investment. One other cool thing, and probably what your accountant would recommend, honestly, that's my accountant recommended. But one other cool strategy that I have done in the past, not with particularly with depreciated properties, because I have not had the privilege of being investing for over 27 years. I'm only 37 years young, and so haven't quite gotten there yet. I haven't owned any properties for 27 years yet, but I'm getting there. He is doing what's called owner financing, which essentially, yes, you're going to have to pay some of those taxes and you're going to realize some of those profits, but not all of them at once. They're going to trickle in little by little as that buyer pays you back on that loan. And it serves as a twofold, because you're also getting paid interest on that owner financing that you did. It's also letting you take the taxes, the taxable income little by little. I thought I heard some feedback there. I don't know if I don't know if that was you saying something, Lou, or if there was
Yes,
just
I was
something.
about to say something. In the
Okay, go for it.
1031 exchange, there's a couple of rules. The first rule is what
There's
I
some rules.
type here. The first rule is that once you decide that you want to sell, you file the 1031 exchange, and that paper lets the IRS know, okay, I'm gonna sell the property. Now you can sell the property, but you need to buy the second property that has been already identified. So by the moment that you sell, you need to, okay, I'm gonna sell my house because I'm gonna buy a building, or I'm gonna buy a triplex, or I'm buy a duplex, or whatever it is. You want to go above the property first that you're buying next has to be at a higher price than the one you're selling. If not, the difference, if you buy something cheaper, the difference in prices, you will have to pay taxes on that. So in order to take, the full advantage, you have to buy a more expensive property, and you need to identify it before you file everything. So when you are at that position, you've been investing for 27 years, you usually don't buy and sell one home or two condos or something. You have a portfolio and try to sell the portfolio again, against something else. Maybe, a 10, 20 door unit or whatever, or you syndicate.
It's typically done for
else.
upgrading. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. The other thing I was going to say is that when we're talking about owner finance, the beautiful thing about owner finance is that the owner, now you as an owner, you don't take the property. Basically, you don't take the taxes because you are doing a loan. Basically, a loan, it's not an asset. So you don't lose the taxes because you never acquire another asset. You acquire what do you call it? My English is gone. Hector, when you take a loan is
You're basically giving out debt. Is that what you're saying?
Correct,
I'm not really
exactly.
following. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. You're essentially becoming the lender. You're the bank, and this, you're now Bank of America or Wells Fargo or whatever your favorite bank is.
Yeah, exactly. And you only get taxed the profit of that loan. And again, you have no profit because you have no way. The only way that you profit on that loan is when it's paid up in full at the end of whatever the mortgage it is.
As assets coming in is when you're paying those gains on the ones that I've done in the past. So whatever, let's call it again $100,000 loan. Every year your buyer pays you $10,000, 3,000 of that is profit. Well, that's what you're actually paying taxes on, that portion of it. And so on that point that Lewis made, there's actually several kinds of 1031 exchange. I really don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but there is a simultaneous, there is a delayed, and there's a reverse exchange, each which have their own implications. My favorite, the ones that I'm most familiar with, is the delayed, which basically you sell today, you have 45 days to identify your new property, 90 days to close on it. That's the most common and the ones that I'm most familiar with. But honestly, the question wasn't about 1031, so I don't want to go into like this full rabbit hole. There's a lot. It's a lot to know about 1031. That's why there's lawyers and teams of accountants and individuals that solely focus on 1031 exchanges. They're experts. And they deserve to get paid their fee because they know what they're doing, and they're going to save you a ton of money on taxes. All right, Luke.
All right.
Take it away.
Number three, my lovely friend, Justin Maxwell. I met him in Atlanta this week. He asked us a question. What are the tips for picking investing strategies? There's so many ways to invest. It's overwhelming. I don't know where to start. So the best way to know is, I have 4 questions for you. What's your available time? What's your available capital? What's your expertise? Do you know anything about this? And what are your goals? So based on those different patterns, maybe you have a lot of money to invest, you want to diversify, you want to do some things with your money, but you really don't have the time because you'd rather be trading or on the beach or producing YouTube videos or whatever it is. So you realistically, and you don't have that love for doing a flip. So realistically, your money is very well invested somewhere else, and your time, you're in real estate, but your time is not. Okay, there are people that don't have the capital but have the time. So what do we do? What do we recommend those people? All right, so maybe wholesaling could be your best option. Now you have the time to start looking for properties. You do not need capital to start in real estate. You need a deal. Once the deal shows up, then money will show up. Because if it's a good deal, don't worry about it. Okay. Now, do you have the expertise? You have the skill? Do you know how to paint? Do you know how to fix? You know how to do a few things? Maybe a flip is good for you. You have that time. You want to do it over the weekend. Maybe something that you like working on wood, or you like, so maybe, take a project and just flip it within a year. Why not? It's going to be 30, 40 grand more in your pocket than you started the year with. Okay. But take it slowly, do little by little, and do it. Or what are your goals? Is your goal you want to build a full portfolio of properties? Do you have the time to do it, etc.? So I just picked a few strategies that are, for these different goals. I'm going to basically talk from easiest to most complicated. The easiest thing you can do is invest in a REIT. That's a real estate holding company. Okay. These are funds that are managed professionally by people that do this in and out every day, where you put your capital and they grew your money for you. They pay you back within the end of the year, at the end of the fund. Those funds have a 5 years, 7 years, etc. of life, where you put your money and within 2 years you can take it back, or etc. There are millions of them. Okay. The benefit of it is that you put your money in, you're not guaranteed any profit. Sometimes they guarantee you a first cut of your profits, but you do not touch anything. So it's the same thing as putting the money on Tesla, or putting the money on Apple, or putting the money somewhere else where you don't care. Now, this is in real estate. So if you believe the real estate is going to be a solution for you, go ahead and do it. Some people want to invest in bourbon. Some people want to invest in classic cars, whatever. This is just write the check and forget about it. The second option that I found, in level of complexity, is finding turnkey rentals. Turnkey rentals is when you buy a home out of the MLS that is completely done and it has a tenant in there. So what do? As soon as you get your check, you get your keys, you start getting checks, okay, immediately. Ideally, hire a property manager, like we just talked. You're gonna pay him a cut, but it's the most out of, you're gonna own a property, but you're basically not gonna work it. Okay. The next step over that, it's buying the rental turnkey without a tenant. I would personally do that in the case that you have some kind of control of the person living in your property. You don't want somebody that, if you inherit a troubled tenant, here we go, then you lose your hair. If you can choose the person, you'll be better off that way. It's going to be a little bit of work, but basically it's a little bit of work, 3, 4, 5 hours a year. Every time that, if the person doesn't stay after the first year, you need to go find a new tenant and pay the commission for real estate. That's the ideal. So basically you will buying a property from a flipper like me that is completely done, perfect and beautiful. You turn the key and you start looking for a tenant. Okay. If you have more time, if you have more expertise, then renovations are for you. So you either do a renovation and you do a BRRRR, meaning the BRRRR is the one that you buy it, destroyed, messed up, you're going to add value, you buy, you rehab, you rent it, and you refi. Once you refi, you pull the money you spent, and then the property keeps churning money for you every month. The other option is do the same thing. You renovate the property, you buy it, you fix it, and then you sell it. And at the end, when you sell it, you get a nice, sexy pile of cash. I love sexy piles of cash. Now, if your intent is not to build a portfolio, just to get additional cash flow, that big pile of cash is basically all you need. You can do them. I do a professional. I do 4 or 5 flips at a time, but you can do 1 flip a year. Why not? And again, make $40,000 that year. Working on the weekends here, weekend there, supervising in the afternoon.
A little bit of extra chump change, right? Just
yep, it's a nice
30, 40 grand a year. Yeah.
I'll take that every day. Then if you really want to be involved in this, then your next step is do commercial real estate, but then now you're involved, you're going to be pro in this, and then do new construction. But again, you are putting all your time, all your expertise and everything, that's going to be your job. So this is pretty much nothing that we're looking here right now. Okay, but that's the basics of what we should do. Okay, any questions? We are live again. We type something in the chat to see if we're still here. Let's see. Let's start.
All right, let's get some. Yes, let's get an 11 going. Let's go.
Still here. All right, 1, 2, perfect. Think 4, 5. Sweet. Any questions as of now? Any questions about this question? Now that we're here, we can, clarify something for anybody in the chat. No question is a bad question.
Well, I'll add something while we see if
All right, go for it.
somebody is throwing in any questions. I actually met a gentleman last week. I was in Clearwater, closing out some deals that Lewis and I actually finished that we were working on together. And I met a guy who works in a hospital. And all this guy does is when opportunities comes his way, he'll buy a property. He doesn't buy a ton of them. He's collected, I think he told me throughout the years, I think he was like at 8. They're all paid for. He'll buy them, fix them up on his spare time while he goes to his full-time job 3-4 days a week, has 2 days off. Since he works in a hospital, he's usually got 2 days off in a row. So he goes, he fixes up the house. Eventually he gets a rental ready, rents it out, and starts collecting income. He's getting ready to retire in the next 5 years. He told me he expects to have 10 properties fully paid off by the time he retires, on top of his 401k, on top of his IRA, on top of his regular stuff that his job gave him, all because he slowly bought one rental here and there every couple of years as the opportunities came his way. And he enjoyed the rehab part of it. So he actually likes doing the work on the properties, takes 2 or 3 days off from work, works a little bit, doesn't work on it again for another week, so on and so forth. So very viable option, even if you are a busy, full-time, hardworking professional.
Yeah. I got friends that
it could
have
be a
done
slow
it.
game. It could be a slow
I
game.
have friends that have done it within the regular jobs and everything. Anybody can flip a home a year. It's no big deal. As long as obviously don't get yourself in big trouble. Okay. Do what I like to call lipstick on a pig. Lipstick on a pig is you go in, you need a kitchen, you put a kitchen, you need a bathroom, you do a bathroom. But you don't start changing layouts, you don't start destroying walls, you don't start adding, additional bedrooms, additional bathrooms, additional, a whole floor in a house. That's gonna be insane. Okay. So just do easy, just do it nice and easy. 2-3 months, boom, it's out on the door. You either, get your pile of cash or you get your tenant. I mean, both ways work. It depends on, again, what your goal is.
It comes down to, like Lewis says, time, the capital availability, expertise, and goals. You have to know what your goals are. What is it that you're trying to accomplish from this new investment strategy or this new avenue that you're going down? All right, we got no more questions on this one, Lou. Take it away to the next one.
All right, how do we buy on terms? Basic outline. When people buy in terms, you have two options. You either get a loan from a bank, and we all know how to get a loan from a bank. And the other option is to buy from the seller. Okay. Right now, the buying from a seller, it's kind of crazy because the interest rate are really low. So most sellers don't want to do that. The market is crazy, and there's a lot of competition. So there's a lot of people with cash. But when there's a complicated property, when it's a complicated deal, okay, or you can add value to it, you can propose the seller to finance it for you. Okay, so you sell the property, or he sells the property, you buy it, you give him some kind of down payment. Okay, so he has a chunk of your money in hand, and then basically he becomes your bank, he becomes your lender. Okay, ideally in those terms, everything is negotiable. So you can do a 5-year with a balloon. You can do a 1 year with a balloon. You can do a 10-year. You can, between both of you guys, negotiate the interest rate. Everything gets recorded. You will get a mortgage from him. Okay. And he will get the note when he can do whatever, resell the note or whatever he wants to do it. The note is the guarantee that you're going to pay the mortgage. Okay. And in the other hand, you get the property. So what I was telling is that you don't need that much cash. You don't need that much capital to start a deal like this, a deal of real estate. It's doable. Ideally, you'd want to find a person that has equity in the property. That's the most important thing, because if they don't have equity, they cannot really do much for you. Okay. Or the property is paid off. So meaning that you have equity, you still need to pay the bank. Let's say the property is worth 200,000. He owes 50. What happens if you give him 50 for down payment and you collect that 50 between 3 friends? Or you borrow the money, who cares? Okay, a hard money loan or whatever it is. He goes, pays the bank, he goes away. Okay, maybe he wants to downsize to a little condo, and then you pay him, your regular mortgage of $1,500, $1,400 monthly for him, and then uses that money to live in a tiny condo, and there's still money going to his pocket. Why not? It happens. Okay, the idea is you need to find a property that has equity and a person that needs out for whatever reason it is. It's downsizing, somebody passed away, somebody's getting divorced. Usually those properties also you will notice that the properties that need work. So once you go drive by and you drive by and you drive for dollars and there's a familiar home that you go all the time and you see that it will be awesome just to pressure clean and paint it. That's the one you come in, you knock the door, it's like, hey, this is what we do. I'm in real estate. How can I help you? And go from there. Okay. Any
That's
question?
a great
You want to add
way of
something?
putting it. It's similar to what we just said on Thomas's questions, where we suggested that you could be the one providing seller financing. Is a very same strategy. You're approaching somebody and saying, "Hey, let me take this headache of a property off your hands. No, don't worry about taxes because we're gonna do owner financing. I'm gonna buy it on terms, and I'm gonna pay you little by little, and that's when you're gonna pay your taxes." So, like Louis said, your best candidate is usually gonna be somebody older, somebody looking to retire, and more than likely the property is free and clear, and they really don't want to deal with the management duties, but they also don't want a big old pile of cash, or sexy pile of cash. They'd rather the money trickle in little by little. They could go worry-free to retire in Cancun, Mexico, or in Alaska somewhere. And every month, the person that's paying that mortgage, you, is writing him a check without him having to worry about any sort of management on the property. It's actually a very sweet deal. Not extremely easy to come about until you meet the right person with the right motivation, and a lot of people are willing to do it under the right circumstances.
And two things, whatever you do, always put it on writing. Okay. If you're gonna do a mortgage, do a mortgage. If you're gonna do an option to buy the house, the option to buy the house, record it. Okay. So there's records that you did it. You don't want to go
Yes.
5 years from now where the poor person, went to whatever Cabo and passed away in the beach, and then the sons and the kids and everything, they're gonna start saying that you don't owe anything, that's their home. It becomes an aggravation. So get everything in writing, get everything recorded. The mortgage will be recorded. Usually when you're gonna do this in terms, you're gonna offer more interest rate than what the bank you will pay the bank, because again, everything's negotiable. But to make it, more attractive for the person, you offer a point or 2 points above whatever the bank you pay in the bank, but he's basically giving you all kinds of, problems free. You don't have to do appraisals, you don't have to do inspections, you don't have to go through mortgage broker, you don't have to pay points.
Well, and let's look at the obvious. The property might not qualify. You might not qualify
yeah,
on the
you
bank
might not follow.
finance.
It's true.
You might not have the financial wherewithal to acquire that $1 million property, but the seller's willing to hold that note for you.
Or the property will not qualify,
Or the
because maybe
property
the
is
roof
simply
is too old,
under rented.
or the
Exactly.
AC has a problem. Here in Florida, those big ticket items, and if you don't have a working AC, forget about it. We just bought a house in Clearwater, Florida, where the people lost their foreclosure. They did have a buyer, but between they having the buyer, the tenants left, and the tenants installed the AC. That buyer couldn't qualify. The property ended up going to foreclosure. We picked it up. Those things happen. So if that buyer and that seller were agreed on something, instead of trying to sue each other, hey, we could not make 30 grand. It happens. We were at the right time at the right place. Okay. So next
So
one.
that sounds
Any questions?
great. I haven't seen any questions come in on the chat, guys. If you have any questions, please throw it in the chat. We are here for you. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and move on to number 5. Should an investor only focus on one type of investment or mix it up? I'm going to give you the very, very basic answer is absolutely not. Diversify. However, asterisk, 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 just like with trading, we're all a bunch of traders in this group. You need to start somewhere, and you need to pick one asset class and one investment strategy, become an expert at it, then diversify. Just like with trading, you don't want to try trading 5 different strategies. You don't want to try learning land development, apartment rentals, multifamily rentals, fix and flip, all at the same time. Not only is it going to be extremely stressful, it's going to be extremely risky. Pick one, the one that fits your current lifestyle the best, attack it, become an expert at it, then move on to the next one. Personally, I do pretty much all of them, but I started off very slowly as a realtor, started investing in residential, and then little by little, I moved on to other plays, land, commercial, flipping, renting, but it was a gradual escalation of my skills, and my life went changing, and it allowed for additional types of investments. But I would not suggest just only doing one thing your entire life, although you could be extremely successful at it. And I was actually just talking to my uncle yesterday, who is a longtime real estate investor, and all he's ever done while keeping his full-time job at a dealership is buy townhouses and condos. He is now retired, pretty wealthy. Nothing wrong with that. But in the time when the market in Miami fell apart and condos were worth nothing, it was the cash flow that saved his investments, because the equity in his apartments went to, pretty low. Anything you want to add to that one, Lou?
No, diversify. I'm just going there. Same thing. Remember when I started telling you from easiest to hardest, do the same way. Start at the easiest of your level, get a rental, can get another rental, then flip one, then, sell all three of them and buy something bigger, or then, use the leverage of those where you paid and get a down payment for something bigger, a duplex or a triplex. Then you have 5-6 properties, then sell all those and, get with the group and get a 10-door. Remember, a commercial real estate is not only storefronts. Commercial real estate is also apartments, condominiums, not condominiums, apartments. So you can partner with, be the little partner in a big group that buy condos, that buy apartment buildings. Why not? So you are one owner, part owner of 120 doors, but you really just contribute a little part. Why not? And that will give you, the more things you do, the more contacts, the more people that is going to start bringing you ideas, and
it's that team. It's that team that starts to develop and it starts to explode, and your career and your investments take way bigger shapes. All right. I don't see if anybody has any questions. Go ahead and throw them in your chat. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and move on to question number 6, also by my buddy Justin, who just asked a bunch of really, really, really good questions.
Really great questions.
This is a fantastic question. Are there really passive streams of income when it comes to real estate, right? And yes, there absolutely is. And it comes down pretty much to that similar list that Lewis gave you. You want completely passive, it's a REIT. Just, we all know how to trade the stock market, go buy a REIT. There's also crowdfunding and, fundraise.com, which I believe Thomas did a video on recently for RLT. There is very little to no involvement in these. You're going to do your research. You're going to pick an investment vehicle. You're going to jump on it. And that's it. You're going to have little to no control, actually no control at all. Most of the time, no ownership in these regards. And you really might not get those tax benefits, but it is completely passive. You did your initial research, and most of these REITs and crowdfunding websites are going to be paying you some sort of a dividend or a quarterly or annual payout, AKA a stream of income, AKA cash flow. Now, my 2 more favorite passive streams of income when it comes to real estate is real estate syndications and real estate funds, which essentially is a more localized level of crowdfunding. Typically, and obviously you could do this at a very large level, and there's a lot of crowdfunding websites that do syndications and real estate funds on a massive level, and you never have an idea of who you're investing with. But in this case, I'm referring to a more localized approach where you invest with a friend who's a professional real estate investor. You guys can create a syndication, or a friend creates a real estate fund. And essentially what that does is that allows individuals to create a small group of investments together, and the manager, the sponsor, is the one that is solely responsible for managing those investments. So you as the passive investor simply get paid your dividend or your profit at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, depending on whatever the structure is. The nice thing about this is that typically the passive investor has ownership most of the time, obviously depending on the particular syndication and real estate fund, but the passive investor also has ownership over those assets, and therefore they get to participate on the tax benefits, which is why I particularly like these structures the best when I am playing passive. And yes, I am an active real estate investor, but I do invest passive sometimes. I just don't have the time to be in everything that I want to be in. And so I am okay giving a friend some capital to go ahead and deploy it and use his investment strategy, which is another way that I use to diversify, because I invest in one particular or in several particular sets of asset classes and investment types, but in a very particular area. I have friends over on the Midwest, and that gives me a diversification of area as well as investment type. And I don't really have to use my brain power. It's a passive investment where I put my capital and my capital goes to earn me money. And my friends who run the syndication or the real estate fund are the ones, the sponsors are the ones in charge of running that investment actively. So to sum up, those are some of the ways that you can absolutely invest passively in real estate. It is definitely doable. And I highly suggest it for those of you who want to get started and don't have a whole lot of time on your hands. It's a good way of diversifying. We do have a couple of questions that came in, Louis.
Yes, I see them. Let's see if we can make them fit before the end of the hour.
Perfect.
Okay, so let's run this. Number 7 by Jason. Do you invest for cash flow or appreciation? Cash flow, baby. Cash flow. It's always cash flow. You cannot count in appreciation. Now, when you buy when you get a rental, you always need to have cash flow. Why? The problem becomes where, remember, the real estate is a cycle, and we are right at the top, but we don't really know when it started coming down. Okay, so you do not, you buy, you fix it, you rent it at the moment in time in history where you at. Okay, and at that moment in time in history where you at, the property needs to give you positive cash flow. So it's either 100, 200, 300, 500, whatever amount of cash flow you decide is good for you, it's always going to be cash flow. You cannot always count on the upswing on the market. Some people invest, and let's say they buy now and they go and they still have to, they have their investment property where they still need to add $300 a month to make the payments, because they're counting on the curve of going up in value, and they buy today and they're planning to sell in 2 years. What happens if in 2 years it's, you know, like the repeat of 2008? Then you have all those investors that had to get rid of properties, like, you know, everybody did in 2008, 2009. Yes. So always invest thinking of cash flow. If the properties go up, 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 well, you sell it at some point. Then at the moment you decide if it's worth selling it or keeping it. But if the properties go down, even below the value that you own the property, you're still making money out of it. Okay, so if you're still making money out of it, what's the point of selling it? At some point it will recuperate, and, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now. But it's still being an producing asset for you. So always look at the positive cash flow. Okay.
Actually, can I add something to that real quick?
Absolutely.
I fully and completely agree on a long-term investment. However, when we are doing flips, we force appreciation. So in that case, we invest for appreciation, but now we are not passive about the way we expect that appreciation to happen. We do not worry about the market giving us that appreciation. We go make it happen. We force it. Right. And we force that by either fixing up the property and adding value to the condition of the property, updating it, upgrading it, or making it habitable, whatever the case is, but we are adding value to the property. We bought it below market value, and we're going to push the value up by doing something either physically or legally to the property in order to make it be worth more.
Exactly.
That is for short-term investments.
But the way we
primarily.
do it also is when we flip a property, we calculate the comps based on this moment in time. So if the comps, obviously in this market that it's insane that the things are going up like every week, you know, if we have a good surprise where we plan to sell for 320 and we sold for 330, I'm not going to be upset about it. But when you are, usually the markets are slightly going up, that's the historic on real estate. You know, you plan for your comps and maybe you sell at that same amount, maybe you sell a couple of thousand above that amount. This run up that we have is not normal, and it's made by COVID, like lack of, you know, materials, whatever reason might be, the interest rates, whatever it is. But you cannot, and I've seen it, I've seen at the auction where people buy thinking, you know, in 6 months it's gonna be this much plus the moment money I'm gonna put in, you know, and then get stuck with the property. I saw it in 2008, 2009 so many times. That's not even funny. I bought properties that I only needed to paint a wall and resell it. Hey, it happens. You know, those were the best. The least I had to do to them, the better. Okay. So
that's the easy ones, right? Those are the ones we live for.
Those are the little condos. That's why I love little condos. So always for cash flow, either when you're flipping or when you rent, do not count on
Passive
whatever's going on in the market. Okay.
Yeah. Any questions on that? And Luke, can you scroll down a little bit? We can hardly see. There you go. Just put that whole page. There you go.
Okay. Another question.
Questions on that particular topic. Go for it.
Okay. How do you estimate the range for future rental rates for a long-term buy and hold in investment if the interest rates are rising? Okay. You don't. The interest rates do not depend on your investment, except when you're not smart and you buy the property with a adjustable rate mortgage. Do not ever buy with adjustable rate mortgage unless you apply to refi within the next 3-6 months immediately. Okay, because again, you don't want to see surprises. So it's the same thing we're talking. What happens if the interest rate go and balloon up 3%, 4%? Now your cash flow is gone because you need to pay for additional mortgage. Now, when your interest rate changes, you go in, you get your rental, you start collecting your rent, you lock up your mortgage, it's yours for here to 15 or 30 years or whatever amount you put it. The rent that you receive does not change based on the interest rate going up. Okay, the only way that the rental rate will change is if the desirability of your property goes either up or down. Okay, so if you bought a property in a place where let's say for something, you have a big lumber yard, and that's the biggest employer in the whole county, and the lumber yard goes out of business, what happens to your property? What happens to the desirability of your property? On the other hand, let's say you buy a property in a nice community where it's close to a tourist place, come in Florida. Half Florida is all touristy. What happens with your property? The more it goes in time, the more people want to live in that place. So remember when Hector told you earlier just to go and look for the
labor stats.
The labor stats and employment stats and everything. That's what you need to look for. You don't care about the interest rate. Now, the other thing that might happen is when the interest rate goes up, yes, everything else is going to go up. So your management fees might go up a little. The property taxes might go up a little. A few things, you know, electricity, utilities, if the tenant is not paying, they might go up a little, but they do not go up based on the interest rate. So the interest rate is not a problem. Let's say you want to buy your next one. Then you factor the current interest rate against that same deal. Is completely different than the other one. Now you need to buy and need to rent in order to cash flow positive with a new interest rate. Usually is the case when the interest rates go up a lot, the property values go down. So at the end, they even out. The monthly payment kind of stays the same. Okay. If the interest go really low, What happens to the property, which we see now, is going high. So then for a very expensive property, you still have a regular low mortgage. They always even out, okay? Because affordability has to be there.
Yeah, and in a rising rate environment, it actually sometimes creates a little bit more tenants because less people are able to afford those desirable homes that you may have already been locked into. This kind of drives to Kevin's question, so I'm gonna go ahead and answer while we're here. Kevin, how do you determine monthly rent to charge a tenant? Is not too far away from Jason's question over here, and it is essentially driven by the market. Everything that Louis just said, desirability, but also what is around you. If Amazon all of a sudden says, hey, we're going to open up a new warehouse in that area, rent's going to go through the roof, property values are going to go through the roof. We saw that happen in New York, and then immediately plummet when New York didn't let them in, or whenever they pulled out, whatever the case was there. It was just kind of one of those ups and downs real quick. So that obviously has some effect on it. The way that we typically do is, number one, contact a local realtor. Realtors know what the market rate, rental rate should be in the area. Contact that property manager. That property manager also knows. Doesn't mean you have to hire the property manager. The property manager and the realtor are happy to give you this information in the off chance that you're going to become their client. Last resort, Zillow.com, Realtor.com will sometimes give you the average rental rate in the area. And so you have a 3-2 with a garage, the 3-2 with a garage 3 blocks from that property rented for $1,000. Well, you could pretty much estimate that the average rent in that area for 3-2s with a garage is $1,000. That's essentially what we do when we do not have realtor connections. But for the most part, I'm always reaching out to a local realtor and to a local property manager, and they're going to have a conversation with me and kind of guide me as to what's typical for rental in that area and what I can expect. And a lot of times they know that information that we were just talking about, job creators and labor stats, and because that's their job. And so they're going to be able to help you a lot of times, and they're going to be great resources, even if, again, you don't hire them to manage your property. These people are in the people business, and so they're happy to share that information with you. Hopefully that answered your question, Kevin. If you have a follow-up, throw it in the chat. And Louis, if you want to move on to question number 9.
Okay.
Also, how do you guys evaluate the initial deal? This one's going to get very fun, guys. This is like what I live for here.
This is
running numbers.
Yes. Okay, we didn't get a background if he was talking about a rental or a flip. So let's talk about a flip, because that's what we love, and we love sexy piles of cash. All right. So what we do is we calculate the ARV. ARV is the after repair value. We get the comps from our own research, from Zillow, from the real estate agent that is working with us, whatever it is. We, as an average, and I'm not gonna say this is, fully true, but as an average, we should not pay more than 70% of the ARV, okay? Usually the properties need some work. Okay, so we are going to, if we pay more than that, that's going to eat into the budget of the repairs. So for an investment, we shouldn't pay no more than that.
For a flip investment.
Correct. 70% of the after repair value. Okay, now from the after repair value, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to type down a really nice formula over here. So the ARV, actually, let's put it the other way. Your max offer that you need to pay for the property is going to be, okay, the ARV, okay, minus your closing cost. Okay, all your closing costs, it's all the actual money that you're going to be paid up at the closing, appraisals, inspections. You don't pay for the commission of the real estate agent. Usually real estate agents gets paid by the seller, but you're going to pay points. You're going to pay intro fees. You're going to pay fees to the bank. You're going to pay wiring fees. You're going to pay, convenience fee. It's convenient to charge you fees, all kinds of fees. You're going to be part of your closing cost. Okay. From there, you're going to have your repair budget. Okay, so you're gonna walk the house and you need a new kitchen. It's not this much. I need new appliances, is this much. You're gonna need paint inside, paint outside, whatever it is, you put it in your budget. Also in your budget, you need to add for property taxes. How long you plan to have the property? 6 months, 4 months, a year? You need to plan for that. You're gonna insure the property because the bank is not gonna give you money if the property is not insured. So you need to add 6 months of insurance or a year, depending on your insurance broker. You need to pay if you're buying a condo, a townhouse, or one associations. You need to pay for the utilities. So all this repair and upkeep budget. Okay.
Yes.
From there, you're gonna deduct your profit. I'm dyslexic today on Friday. Desired profit, because we're doing this for
Job.
profit. If we wouldn't be doing this for profit, we will be either having margaritas on the beach or we'll be donating our time to a nonprofit. So we're doing this for dollars. So you put your desired profit. So the ARV minus the closing cost minus the repairs minus how much money you want, it's the maximum offer that you're gonna make. Okay.
Boom.
And
Yes.
then you're gonna repeat that over and over and over and over again until somebody bites. Now,
And like Lewis said, it won't always be 70% of ARV, but that's a formula.
Start there.
A lot of times it gets there, unless it needs a lot more repairs, obviously. If it's, a total beater and a teardown, then yeah, you're going to need a little more than 30%.
Yeah. And if it's one of the condo I love that you're just going to put a couple of appliances and paint it, you can go higher. Again, also, you need to factor how desirable is the property. Are they selling like hotcakes that as soon as you put in the market that they're going to sell? Hey, why not? Because the way I do it, this repair and upkeep, we always budget for 6 months of holding at a minimum. Okay. So what happens if you finish your whole thing in 3 months? Do you really need to, that money that you're factoring in, that's actual profit, is going to move from here to here. Okay. Remember, the other thing is if you need to add, if you are getting a loan.
That's part of your cost, correct? Yes.
That's part of your cost. Okay. If you're paying with your own cash, well, there's no problem. That's another part of profit. So you just need to add all that, and from there you make your maximum offer. Some people will take it, some people will not take it. That's basically what we do all day. We send offers, we put bids on auctions, we try to buy homes, and you
professional fisherman.
Yes, professional
fishing
fisherman.
For deals.
Every day we sit down with my fishing pole. Most days I don't catch anything. Some days I catch a little one, and sometimes I caught a big one.
And the bait is a big pile of cash, and so is the payoff. So hey,
exactly. So that's it.
That's it in a nutshell. If you want to give me a couple enters here at the bottom, we'll do a little bit of housekeeping.
At the bottom. One quick question, PT, just ask if he's gonna be a real estate investor, do you recommend I get a real estate license? Depending on how hard it is in your state. Florida is super easy to get it. I get it. I got it when I first started. It doesn't cost much to have it open. Actually, I need to take the test because I got another test to take. Every 3 years you get a test in March or September. It's convenient because you get the information firsthand, more than having to consult the realtor or having to ask somebody. I mean, you just go in, look at the MLS, and get the information when I need it at 7:00 at night on a Sunday. No problem. I don't have to wait for somebody else to tell me stuff. So it's just convenient. You don't need to answer. Really, what you need to do is the very first thing the best thing you can do to start in real estate is keep your eyes open. Every time you drive by on your way to commute to work or to pick up kids or whatever, and you see a home that is messed up, and you see it over and over and over again, and it doesn't change, and you see, it's starting to look, and everything's overgrown. Hello, I'm here. Yeah. Can I help you with something?
Look for deals. Take out your fishing
pole. The deals. Once you have the deals, just yell and scream. We're here. We'll help you. Okay?
Yep. And I'm going to give actually the exact opposite of that answer. Because Lewis and I actually, we are like-minded in a lot of things, but we have different opinions on some things. And this is one of them. I am a licensed real estate broker. I have had my license inactive for years. I do not use my real estate license.
You
I
have a
keep it up.
wife.
It's there.
That is the realtor.
Yes, I have a realtor at home. Okay,
Convenient.
I get it. But nevertheless, I do not want to operate as a realtor. I do not want the headache of being a realtor.
Yes.
So
Let me get
therefore,
back. Yes. I'm a realtor in the sense that I have access to all that. For years and years and years, I was my own selling agent. Uh, Things happen. So I don't need that aggravation anymore. I'd rather pay the commission to somebody else.
correct.
My time
Yes.
is better used looking for more deals than to fighting an agent that he's telling me that the pool is not worth 20,000, it's only worth 15, or it's only worth 10.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant. I'd rather give the commission to somebody else and forget about it. Look for more deals. That's what I'm good at. I'm not good at arguing with people. I just hang up the phone. Okay. So
Can you tell he just buys properties? He's just a real estate investor,
Yeah. Okay. So
that is the end of the questions there. We are, keep an eye out, pretty soon we will be coming out with a flip like a real estate pro class. That's going to be coming up pretty soon, and we will be doing a round 2 of the mentorship program.
Yes.
If we did not get to your questions, if you guys have additional questions, please feel free to email them to real estate, at reallifetrading.com.
Real estate at real life trading. That's going to be your email. Any questions, any comments, anything that you guys need, please set up. We're setting up another one, like Hector said. We went through basically all the questions we received. If you got more, no question is too basic. No question is too dumb. We all don't know everything about everything. So let's keep it doing. Okay. Yes, PD, just start. You recommend do Google for REITs. It's REITs, no, Breyas. It's
so PT asked, if you're new to an area, do you recommend connecting with local real estate groups? The answer is 100%.
Yes.
Real estate investor associations. There's Facebook these days. When I first got started, Facebook did not exist. There was no Facebook groups.
Yes.
And no, I'm not
and
that
I
old.
actually even now that we bought those properties in Clearwater, I joined one of the Tampa Real Estate Investor Association, and they sent me a whole bunch of contacts. A couple of them really worked. So we'll see. It's a good thing to have.
You can get anything
now
from deals
now
to
that everything's
contracts.
online, you don't have to go to meets if you don't want to. You just throw questions and answers and questions and answers. Somebody's always willing to help. Because again, if you get a deal, everybody can help you either sell it or fix it or do whatever you need. So yes, please do. That's gonna be you're gonna get the the bundle of the knowledge of everybody else. It's gonna be there.
Networking is very, very, very big, and in all businesses really, but in real estate in particular, where it's a team effort, it is going to be huge for you to network and for you to know the real players in the area, and to know what's going on. Really, that's where you're gonna learn what market rents are, market values, and all sorts of stuff, and little tips and for the people that have already been investing in that area.
Which area to avoid, or what's required for for the area you live in. For example, if I'm here in Florida, I have no idea about basements. So first thing I want to do if I go somewhere else is start asking questions. Do you do the basement? What do you do? Do you finish it, unfinish it, or stuff like that? It's the best way to answer all your questions. Go in, have fun. Okay. PT, if I find a good deal, is the mentorship program the only way I can connect with you guys? No, we're in Slack. We are everywhere. We are, if anything,
real estate at reallifetrading.com. Shoot us an email anytime.
That's our new email coming from everybody from Real Life Trading. We are going to be here. We'll be answering, between both of us, we'll be answering personally those email. Any questions, anything. We're in the Slack as well. Whatever you guys need, just yell, just scream. If you really want to find us, you'll find us. We're always doing stupid stuff in Slack or in the rooms. So,
On YouTube.
We're there.
All right. Thank everybody for joining us. We really appreciate you spending the time with us on a Friday. We know it's Friday. We know it's beach day. It's family time. And so we really appreciate you being out here to grow your knowledge and your experience, and obviously to spend time with us. It is now Margarita o'clock, according to PT here on the chat. So thank you all. And we'll be sending out some emails real soon on the next one of these events that we're having. So once again, stay in touch. Real estate at reallifetrading.com. We appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Love you all.